I'm alive.
Wicha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Halito.
Well,
We're back.
We are back.
Niake.
Beary Botone na hishabe.
Yeah. Bono.
Bono.
Goodness.
Yeah. So my name is Beary Boat.
What up?
Glad you could
Welcome.
join us.
Glad I could make it.
It's been a year.
Yep. Y'all still wearing the same clothes as from
Yeah.
yesterday, so it must have been a rough night.
Yeah.
You know,
We're still thankful.
Yeah, still thankful.
still thankful.
Still full of gratitude.
Yeah, still got a teepee.
Yeah.
This weird thought just came across my mind, like, whenever I wasn't able to bathe every day, like that's the thought that just came across my mind.
Dang.
Was tearing it, but glad to see y'all sober in the same clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Could have went home and bathed or whatever, but whatever.
Just put deodorant.
Yeah. So, what did y'all cover on the last episode?
Got them fabric softener sheets.
Yeah.
I got new socks from that drawer.
Yeah.
Come up. Okay.
No, man, we covered a lot. We talked about, I feel like, each of our recovery journeys personally.
Yeah.
A little bit about what community means to me.
Okay.
What else?
Just kind of gave an update. Just kind of gave an update on everything we've been doing over the last year.
Yeah. Since we've been on.
How recovery has grown, how the Office of Recovery has grown. Because last time we were here, I think we were just the TOR 4.
TOR 4, yeah.
And now we're the TOR 9. So it's just talked about the growth that we've had and how we've focused on that and how we're utilizing everybody now. So
we
talked
overcame.
about work-life balance or work-home life balance.
Yeah. So busy with
Very
Court Clean, concert, jails, Darian.
So busy with Darian all the time.
Yeah.
Just dragging us around. No, just kidding.
But yeah.
Oh, I forgot about concerts too. That's another thing on our list.
They used to be my thing,
Yeah.
I always did the concerts.
You're coming tomorrow,
Yes,
right?
I am.
Yep.
Yes, I am. Bringing my
Narcan ready.
kids. Yeah.
Cool.
Harm reduction man.
Reduction man, But yeah, so that's pretty cool. I'm glad y'all were able to cover those things. So what do you feel like we should kind of focus on for this episode?
Why don't you update people on everything you've been doing?
Everything
doing.
I've been doing.
You've been to
So-
Portland. You've been.
We'll jump on the meditation too.
Minnesota.
Yeah,
after you-
for sure.
you share.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think everybody knows about your
Oh,
I know.
Yeah.
I know,
your
right?
eyeball either.
Well,
Let's
I would say it's been over a year ago. I got on Ozempic. Have been a diabetic since I was 23. While in my addiction, it wasn't a priority. You know how that goes. Who's got time for that?
For your physical health.
Yeah, who's got
And your
time?
mental health is just sinking daily.
Well, that's when you used to say, I could eat anything I want because I got
I
my
could eat
medicine.
anything I want.
Yeah, I got my medicine.
Well, like I was saying, it wasn't a priority. So, every time I would try to get sober, I would go back to the doctor. And I mean, sometimes it'd be within years, of going without my medicine.
Dang.
So, leading up to where I'm at today, I got put on Ozempic, probably over a year ago, maybe longer than that. It might have been 2023 whenever I got on it. I mean, but, and that's what they think led up to me. I had a vitreous hemorrhage and it detached my retina, so it was definitely something that I wouldn't wish on anybody, because at that point, I'm ready to hang it up. I think my life's over with, I honestly thought I'm gonna be blind for the rest of my life. That was the thought that would go through my head because I'm just dealing with my reality. I can only see from this far up. From this far down, it's nothing. No light, no nothing. So, it began a whole different prayer life. You know, like that's what it created was, you know, I believe, you know, I believe in our ceremonies. I believe in our traditional ways. You know, I believe in sweet medicine, you know, mahio, you know, that's the way that I've, you know, that's just the way I was raised to believe, you know, and I leaned a lot more on that, you know, leaned a lot more on my creator, you know, my higher power. And it just so happened that, you know, I'm going through ceremonies at the time, you know, and you know, it's been a long process. You know, December 18th, I believe, was my first operation. You know, they put the oil in my eye, they reattached my retina. Went back in April and kind of had to redo it again because it didn't attach all the way. So next Friday will be my final, you know, my final surgery. So
Get that laser installed.
yeah, I'm getting a laser installed, and it'll be able to tell if you're wearing Cardays or not.
Hey.
You know, so
And Mingo doesn't.
yeah,
ever
watch
wear
out,
any.
Mingo.
Well, hey.
See them jingles on them Cardays.
God. Fringes.
Just them fringes.
Yeah, popping. Yeah.
God.
This guy's got a lot of change in his pocket.
Yeah.
But you know, it's been a very humbling process. You know, and it just so happened that going through all of this, while in the ceremony, you know, while in the lodge, I noticed that my vision was coming back. You know, and I don't know. Maybe because I'm always in the dark and I try to avoid the sun, you know, and while you're in the sun during ceremony, you know, it's like I seen where I could see my hand where it used to be blind. And, you know, to me, it was just like an amazing thing to find that out there, you know, and it just let me know, like, I've leaned on the Creator this far. I don't believe He would bring me this far in my life, you know, and let me go blind,
Yeah.
you know, but it also like gave me the faith that I needed to believe that it's something that only He can fix, you know, and I'm okay with that. Like whatever the end result's gonna be, I'm okay with that, you know. So it's definitely been, you know, like this process where, you know, I've really had to depend on that, you know, I've really had to, you know. And I hate, is this table wood? Because I'm going to knock on it. You know, I haven't failed. You know, that's one thing. You know, I can put that on everybody else that I've been around. You know, is that everybody kind of looks out for me, you know, and everybody kind of understands, you know, what I'm going through. And, you know, like, it's funny because, you know, it's just if I act like I don't see a curb, everybody's like, whoa, you know. Cause
You're just playing us at this point, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm kind of spoiled, you know. Like
That's what we say is like, he's not even blind. He's just messing with us. It's going to be the longest con for a year. Like, yeah, I had my surgery. I can see.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you know. But, you know, it's just been one of those things where I thought that you know, like you think that, okay, my life's so much better. Like God is so much, you know, He's so much more present in my life. And whenever I thought that, you know, like I'm good. I don't, you know, like almost mentally, I guess you could kind of think like He had to allow something in my life where I know that I need Him. And, you know, like, okay, my life is good. Maybe I was pulling away.
He checked you.
Yeah, like definitely checked me. You know, like I was pulling away from what got me there.
Right.
And I feel like that was just, you know, like I said, a very humbling experience. And, you know, I'm very blessed, you know, very blessed just to be in the position that I am where I actually have the chance of getting my vision back. Like I cannot like even begin to let you know like how grateful I am just to even have that possibility. So, I don't want to sit here and just harp on, like I don't ever want anybody to feel sorry for me. I still been getting my 40, still been able to do what I got to do, paying my bills. And I'm more than grateful for that, and like it's just one of those things where like you said, he checked me, like he reeled me back in and made me realize like what's important. Like, yeah, of course, paying my bills, of course, my health, all those things. But I think as long as I focus on what he's able to provide for me every day, like it's definitely put my life in a different perspective on how I see things and how I feel things and how I'm aware of like the things that, because, when you're blind, like you can only focus on what's important.
Mm-hmm. There's no room for...
Yeah, like there's no other, you don't have room for nothing else, like you get to focus on what's important. And, like it's definitely let me see things in a different light. And, like I don't know where I would be, like I don't know where I would be mentally, I don't know how far I would have pulled away, and I would hate to see the result of that. Because we all know what happens when you start pulling away from the Creator, where that puts you. And, I would have to say physically, nowhere near where I want to be. I 2 years ago, I was jogging 2 miles a day, and then this happens, and then they're like, we don't want you straining at all. So mentally, I feel like I kind of was getting ready for this, mentally. That's how, because when it happened, there was a few times I got down on myself, and I realized like, hey, like it, and I I associate it with being tired and getting ready to go to sleep like I'm a little kid. Because it was always right at that time I'd start getting down on myself, like, oh man, this sucks, like. What about my grandkids? I want to see Alani and Nova grow up. I want to watch my son play football. I want to watch my daughter play sports. And I just start getting down on myself. And then I just slowly realize, like, hey, or Nat, like, hey, quit talking like that. Like you'll feel better tomorrow. And I would catch myself praying more and more. So, emotionally, like I'm a pretty positive person. Like I say, I lived in that negative for so long, like I know how to be grateful, thankful, and appreciative of, and having the awareness of when I'm not, because you never hear somebody say, I'm so grateful, but, like those things don't happen, like,
Yeah.
So I had to distinguish like the difference between of when I'm in a negative headspace and how to pull myself out of it. So, spiritually, I would have to say part of, me going to ceremony was I wanted my relationship with the Creator to grow. And I would definitely have to say, like I don't just turn to him for, I don't have them foxhole prayers no more. I'm talking to him like he's my friend.
Yeah, like it's a real relationship.
Yeah, like I'm like, like I caught myself the other day. Natalie's asking me a question like, can you see? She's asking me to look at something. And I'm like, no, I can't see it, but I can see a little bit. Like, and she was like, what'd you say? Because I said it under my breath, and I'm like, oh, I just said, I can't see it, but I can see a little bit. And I'm trying to stay like positive about, like different scenarios in my life. So, like it's a weird time in my life, but at the same time, I don't know what's supposed to happen next, and I don't worry about it because as long as I'm doing the Creator's will, like I don't have that pressure on me anymore, so, it's been crazy, but at the same time, very humbling. And, when it all comes down to it, like, I think it started from me taking a medicine, taking Ozempic, like, I'll just be honest, like, I just looked on Facebook 2 days ago and it said there's a class action lawsuit going on a bit. And it said, have you experienced vision loss since taking Ozempic? So, that I don't have a resentment, like I don't hold a resentment towards Ozempic, like,
we know how to deal with our resentments today.
yeah, I know what those lead to, so, I understand my doctor was just trying to help me, and at the time that was probably the best solution for, me at the time because of what was going on, physically. So, it's just something that had to happen, like I don't, like I would hate to ever sit there and just be like, why does this happen to me? Like I look at opportunities today as they didn't happen to me, they happened for me, so that's probably the biggest difference on who I used to be and who I am today. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me. So, I can always find the positive, like it's crazy. I think I stay pretty positive and, can roll with the punches.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how important it is in your life to not allow worry to bog you down. Because if you keep on allowing it to, like, you're going to just keep on slowly, like, degrading yourself and, like, putting yourself down. And it can become burdensome. And to realize that, every day is a new battle. And if you start worrying about tomorrow and the next day or what's going to happen in a year
or what you did,
it's just going to be like, man, like it's going to weigh you down and you're going to have all that weight on your shoulders and you're not going to be able to want to do anything else. And that's why people break down. That's why people lose the ability to function in their daily lives. And so I think it's so important that you've realized that and that we talked about our growth journey in the last thing is like how much we've grown over a year since we've done this, like, and how important it is for us to share that growth and how we've achieved it. So to hear that is key. And I've always told you, like, to hear your faith and throughout this process it's been amazing. And to know that we can share that. And it allows people to be able to, kind of hold on to something and be like, hey, if he can do that, then I'm going to be able to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to ask you how you're not grumpy pants some days. But, I've asked you that. I'm like, man, you have to, like, anyone
Chipper.
else would be down on themselves. You know what I mean? But when I think about, like, the things that are, when I think about worry, I think about immediately what comes into mind is control, because growing up I was always told, like, oh, if you're worried, think about the things that you can control. But really, like, if you, like, throughout my recovery journey, I've learned that really God is in control, and so the only thing I'm in control of is my reaction to this. So I can be grumpy pants, or I can cry, or I can run away from my problems, you know what I mean, or I can trust in God, that he's going to carry me through and then face each thing. And, like, if we did see these, like, tribulations in life as checks from God, all right, well, so this is happening, right? I'm presented with this situation. So what other areas of my life need attention? What do I need to check in with myself. And, I guess that's just something I've learned along the way. Check in with myself.
We wouldn't be human if we didn't have grumpy pants days.
Yeah.
Do you like, where are you at? Do you just like
you
just hide out?
No. I think about
you're always at work.
unnecessary stress.
Yeah.
Like that was a big burden for me for a long time. I thought about the things that I'd done, not only to me, but like to my kids. To my exes, to my mother, my grandmas, brothers and sisters, because it wasn't just me that was going through those things. My family was hurt every time, that I did something, went to jail or, whatever, But so, I think about the unnecessary stress that I caused that I would carry around with me, future tripping, or worried about, stressing out over, things that I did in the past. And I would have to say, like GTA, grateful, thankful, and appreciative. Like I said, a person doesn't stay grateful and be like, I feel blessed, but there's no but. I had to distinguish the difference between where I'm at today, where I could be, like being able to go volunteer with the homeless. I mean, with the unhoused population. It made me really appreciate about how far away I am from actually being there. Mm-hmm. And there's just so many positives, like that I can think about through my day. Like it's crazy to think like who fear is a huge part of the addiction side. That's the big part of being on the addiction side is fear. So I don't know, it's just so easy for me to stay positive. I can find, I can always find something to laugh about. And that's one trait that I've always held on to. Mm-hmm. I can remember getting ready to get sentenced to go to prison when I was 16, and I just found something funny about the judge's face, and I just kind of smiled. And he said, "Do you think this is funny?" And I was like, "No, sir." Like I had to like look away because I could not look at him without laughing. And he was giving me a break, But I mean, today, I get to use that, and I'm more aware of the positive things that are happening in my life. So.
It's good, man. I always look at, fear is a liar. Mm-hmm. And I think if you hold on to things, and it keeps you from achieving who you really are, because you're so worried about
all what the wrong things
people think, or, like you just said, all the wrong things. And to break free of that helps you grow, because it helps you understand who you are, because you're never going to realize your full potential as long as you're living in fear. And that's why I think we give each other such a hard time when it comes to doing new things all the time. And we find humor in that stuff. And like you just said, you were laughing, you were staring at a judge. And that's just crazy. But like, I think that's just part of our healing process. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why people kind of, they don't, that's how they look at us now. It's like, man, these guys are having fun. And recovery can be fun, as long as you have the tools and the resources and the people around you, the community behind you that are going to help you. And I think that's the most important part about what we're doing is our community has grown like so much, and to bounds to where we didn't even think it was going to grow that big. And it's kind of amazing. So, but we harp on people about don't let fear control your life. Yeah. And be grateful, thankful, and appreciative of no matter what's going on. Like, you could be going through the most trying time of your life, but be thankful for it, because you're going to be stronger after it. And God's putting you through it for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah, freedom. You know what? I would have to say that's another part of why I'm so chipper. Why I'm such in a good mood all the time, because I have freedom today.
Freedom from self too.
From self. I mean, I learned how to get out of my own way, and more importantly, I learned how to get out of the Creator's way.
Right.
I used to be the type that would be like, "Okay, I prayed about it. Now let's go fight." Like,
prayed I was going to win this fight.
Yeah. And it probably didn't, But, it's just one of those things where, you learn It didn't just happen overnight just because I gave everything to the creator, like it didn't just happen overnight. You had to practice these healthy habits.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to learn how to put your faith where your fear used to live.
Mhm.
And it's something, like life got me this far because I had to unlearn a lot of things. That's a big one. Unlearn a lot of things because my mind was wired a certain way because of this and that happened to me, this trauma that happened, like all these different things happened to me. So like I had to unlearn a lot of things
Right.
and learn how to trust the process, so I can't say it enough. I give so much to the creator, and all he's teaching me how to do is how to put one foot in front of the other. And as long as I can keep doing that, it's like whenever this red road is so wide.
Mhm.
It's so wide. I remember when it was just a line through the sand. Now it's like this, I can feel when I'm getting out of balance.
Mhm.
And that's very important for me, is understanding like, and I'm the type too that will over laugh, like I find humor in everything.
Don't be with you in serious situations, right?
I look at
No
me.
Don't
way.
look
Not
at me.
you.
Don't look at me.
But I feel like I have to be like that, because I can't, like I stayed in the negative for so long.
Mhm.
I don't know. I always just think about my Uncle Robert, my Uncle Robert Wilson, rest in peace. Man, every time I seen him, man, he just always had a hug for me. He just always ready to tell me he loved me. And I lost my dad in 2003. So it's like, to have an uncle who just felt that way about me, like, that's the uncle I want to be to everybody,
Mhm.
I got uncled in.
Yeah.
That torch was passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel that, I feel that I want to be that uncle, I want to be that guy, that people can turn to. And,
It's crazy how that happens, man, because like I've been going around the family more, and it's like now everybody is starting to come up to me and starting to talk to me like I used to talk to my uncles and stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, it's not time yet.
You're an uncle now.
Yeah,
Uncle,
and I'm just
yeah.
like, it's not, in your head, and you're just like, and then you have the realization like, oh man, maybe it is that time, and
yeah,
you have to. And I'm not saying I was changing who I was, but like you just approach things differently. Like you
For
have
sure.
to understand, like maybe they're coming up to you because they don't have anybody else that they can talk to.
yeah,
Maybe they're not receiving that. Maybe they don't have a father figure in their life, and they need somebody. And that's what it can become overwhelming in the beginning, but when you start realizing like, man, now I know why my uncles were the way they were.
for sure.
Now I know why they did all the things that they did. And it wasn't like they were looking for some notoriety or they were looking for somebody to call them out and be like, man, those guys are such good people. It's just who they are.
Mhm.
And I think that whenever I started to have that realization, it was just like, man, maybe I need to be one of them that are starting to reach out to other members of my family. Or,
For sure.
And just, it's just simple check-in stuff. It's
Yeah.
not nothing like, oh yeah, let's go and do this. Let's go doing that. But like back in the day, I remember my uncles used to pull up to my aunt's house and they'd be like, let's go to the store. I'll get you a Pepsi or something like that. And I'll be like, heck yeah, I'm going. We'll get you a Pepsi and a pickle. And I was just like, all right, let's do it. So that was just simple stuff, man. But just to be there and to have, and now it's like they call or they text and be like, hey, look, I'm going through this time. Will you pray for me? And I'm like, just of course.
Yeah.
But it's just big to realize that, man. It's just crazy to think that transition has happened.
For sure.
So
Mingo, you've been real quiet.
What do you mean? I'm
Are
just
you
listening
awake?
to y'all.
I know. You all right?
Yeah.
You can get in the game?
Yeah.
Go
Do
ahead.
you wanna
Let it
read-
rip.
I thought I
read
was
the
in the game
meditation?
Yeah.
Well,
You gonna read
Do
the
you want me to?
meditation?
no, we don't let Mingo read.
Oh, Okay, I'll read.
He said, "Oh,
I'm just playing.
Sub,
He can read.
sub."
Yeah. Sub.
Yeah, Hawk, get in here.
Now go ahead.
I'm going to read it. Domingo can share first.
Yeah.
Okay. August 8th, Elders Meditation of the Day. The Creator told every one of us in our tribal beginnings to look after our ceremonies and each other. Barney Bush Shawnee. Our ceremonies are important, and each has a purpose. They teach us about the Creator and about each other. The ceremonies teach us to be humble and teach us to pray. They teach us to look inside ourselves. We should remember to pray each morning. Ask the Creator to guide our thinking. Think only good thoughts. Think good thoughts about our relatives and our brothers and sisters. Pray for our children in ceremony. Give thanks to the great mystery for life. All is sacred. All life is sacred. Pray in a sacred way. O Great Spirit, I come to you this morning in ceremony. I come to this sacred place to talk to you. I thank you for your guidance and protection. Give me your eyes today so I may see the beauty in all things.
Oh.
Oh.
Go ahead, Mr. Reader.
Where's he?
If that doesn't like relate to everything we've been talking about all
Yeah.
morning,
I know,
don't know
right?
what does.
Everything.
I know, right?
Prayer.
Yeah.
Before I read it, before I got in the shower this morning, just reminded me of, how important it is to attend our ceremonies. And I spoke about this a little bit about at my sister's special about how, growing up in Oklahoma City public schools and, how we go back and teach our youth the culture, and because a lot of them didn't grow up with it, or maybe their parents, wasn't their faults, or their parents and their addiction or whatnot. They didn't attend. But I was just, reminded, like, so thankful for my mother for able to take us out there. Like I told them, you need to go out there, whatever tribe you are, take you down to the Doll or, Comanches, Anadarko. Got to go out there to your tribe's ceremony grounds, their prayer grounds. And I was just, it just reminded me just being thankful for my Nako Ed, Luna Hale, Sage Woman, my mom, she took us out to Canton, to Sealand, all those dances and ceremonies, Sundance, and we would drive all the way back to the city and be coming in at 5 a.m. and get ready for work and school the next day. but just, and then, like you say, like you say you caught yourself like they're approaching you like an uncle or grandma. And I caught myself talking to my sons and some of my nephews, and I'm like, man, that's what my uncle used to tell me. Uncle Andrew and Daniel.
Yeah.
And now I caught myself, I'm like giving that guidance that they passed me, I'm passing it on, And like when I was at Lame Deer, my oldest son was about to dance, and I could tell he's a little nervous, and I just went by him. I said, "You nervous?" He's like, "Yeah." But I said, "Are you ready?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, just take a deep breath and listen to that song. This is your people, it's your home too, and just dance. Dance. Remember, dance is prayer. So your celebration of life." And he did good. He danced every night. So and I was taught that too. So I'm just like, man, coming into no more nephew, no more yeah. Hey, even I'll be young uncle, but just prayers and just thankful for my mom taking us to Sundance, because when I was there, keeping that fire going for my uncles and my cousins, my brothers, and running and getting sage and getting poison ivy, getting willows, but still stayed all weekend, and it was gone by Monday. So it was just, them prayers are really strong, and believe, don't let up. And just able to believe through prayer, and that you're gonna, you got to suffer a little bit too. You gotta suffer, but you'll be okay. You'll come out. You're whatever tribe. Like I'm Cheyenne. Always believe in that. So able to come out of it and be humble, and just remember, that this, like they say, the sky is cloudy. It'll be blue again. It'll be clear again. So I don't know, just prayers, and what today's meditation just reminds me of how thankful and able to keep praying, and be humble, and be present, be mindfulness too. So
Thank you.
Mini ados.
Good one.
Who's next?
Man, this just brought me thoughts of like So whenever I started growing spiritually, learning more about everything from you guys, basically, creators, there's spirituality and growing in that way, my mom was like, and this is just her beliefs, you know, she was just like, God and creator are not the same thing. Like, you're not talking about the same person, you know? And I felt so, like, spiritually connected, like, so, I had such a good relationship with my higher power. And that was so discouraging to hear.
Yeah.
You know? Turned out to be just a disagreement, and I had to remember what I believe on the inside and what I know to be true and move along with that. So we're at the powwow on Friday at Nations, you know, and my mom is just like, I just told her that I made Josie a ribbon skirt and she wore it out there. And then Bobby was telling me how to make a tea dress. And I was like, I think I can do it, you know? And my mom said she just, after that, and like, just listening to the, you know, the songs and seeing the dancing and stuff, that she was so emotional because that was like me making a ribbon skirt for Josie was like more than anyone ever tried to do for her growing up, or like teach her anything, or allow her to learn anything, you know, or be a part of. And so the powwow was a very really opened her eyes, like emotionally and spiritually, I think. And you know, maybe she'll see things a little bit differently now, or, you know, maybe we'll come to that. Because it just happened to be it ended up being a conversation I wasn't willing to have with her.
Yeah.
And there are those certain people in life that you can get really spiritual with and really, you know, really have those deep talks with. And it's just, I don't know. It's honestly kind of cool to see my mom's eyes opening along with mine too.
For sure.
And Josie's. You know what I mean? Like, we're just like 3 generations of people that are healing from all the past, you know, all the past wreckage and trauma. And but yeah, we shared a lot on prayer on our last one, and I think that is so important. It's important to mention, you know, not only just you and your immediate family, but everyone in your circle. You know, I have actually started like praying for you guys too, and like your families. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah, you guys made my prayer list.
Made the cut.
Made the cut.
Wow. Been praying for you for years.
No, but like just being more intentional, like with my prayers and who, you know what I mean, who I pray for. I've been praying for all of our kids to have a, you know, an easy transition back into the school year, and just those. It's cool that different things matter to me today.
Good deal.
Who's important?
Good
Made the cut. All right.
No quit.
Appreciate it. Yeah, good ways. And with that, we're going to finish our... No, I'm just kidding.
Mr.
it
Reveles?
away.
Mr. Reveles?
I'm chief.
This is literally everything we've been talking about today. And when I look at it, you know, everyone looks at ceremonies as it has to be some, you know, and in our native way, in our culture, a lot of places they have their ceremonial ground or whatever. And I'm not putting any slight to that or anything else. Is like, but when I look at it and I think about ceremonies, it could be, you know, your daily process and everything that you're going through every day. And I don't, my sacred place could be, you know, on my knees next to, you know, in my own bedroom. I know that sounds crazy, but that's where I pray. And
Makes sense.
so when you have that time, like, I just don't, especially for those that are early in their journeys, don't feel like you have to be limited to go into some place specific in order to have your time and to start caring about other people and to start trying to better yourself. And I think it's just important for us to realize that sometimes there are people that are looking at us that we don't even realize it. And that it could be people that are in our community. It could be people that we talk to every day. It could be people that are, it could be our kids. It could be your nephews, your nieces. It could be, it could be anybody. And so, but they're longing to have that kind of relationship with somebody to connect. And so, we talk about our healing forest all the time. So their branches are trying to find somebody to connect to. And I think it's important that sometimes we try to limit ourselves on where we can be in order to do different things. And I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think you need to limit yourself on that. And to be able to look after other people and to pray for other people is important. And I think it's kind of sad that you have to wait till just recently to start praying for us.
Quit it. I didn't mean it like that. I pray for all the people I care about.
We just now made the list, though. So that means she just started caring about us, too.
Last night.
She just added us last night before we got here
P.S.
today.
Haven't even penciled y'all in yet. Just so you
It's
know.
just up
Just
here.
up here.
Goodness.
P.S.
Spiritually.
But no, this meditation is good because it talks to you about just building the relationship. And I think it's important that you're not just building a relationship with people, but you're building that relationship with Creator. And through that, you're going to be able to help other people. And that prayer time and starting in the morning and being grateful and having gratitude and appreciation for everything you're going through it's key in order to help other people. Because unless you're able to do that for yourself, you're not going to be able to do it for anybody else. And I think that's just a big part of it. And I think that if, to be thankful for that we do have sacred places still that we can go and pray for. You talked about your journey and going through the ceremonies and being able to be under the sun and being able to have that time. Like, it's important because it not just grounds you, but it helps you to have a deeper sense of who you are and your own relationship with God and with the Creator. And so I think it's important to understand that everything is there for a reason, and you go through every single time for a reason. So that's my 2 cents for today.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kickadoos. Kickadoos.
Just saying random
He
words.
wants to say.
That's the only Pawnee
Pawnee
word.
Oh, we forgot to say Mike this morning.
Oh,
it's
Mike.
our new one.
Mike.
Mike.
It's you.
Shoda.
Mike.
Shoda. You gotta add Shoda in there.
Soda. Miigwech.
Me, which is thank you.
Oh.
Well, what I thought about when I think about ceremony, when I think about how I grew up, I didn't grow up, my grandma was a Christian. And I'm not really sure, how I've never really sat down and talked to my mom about, what do you believe in? I just know that my grandma, I never seen her go to church. I seen her go to funerals or whatnot, but rarely. When my dad, I would have to say, he's enrolled Kiowa, but he grew up here in Cheyenne Arapaho country. And, he went Cheyenne way. I always knew that's how he believed. I always remember, the respect he had for his pipe. His brother, my Uncle Frankie, he would always have sweats at his house. And that's where it wasn't until, I went to sweats, in Thomas, but it didn't become a part of my life until I moved to El Reno. And then, even then, there was kind of like a culture shock because I seen, I came from a community in Western Oklahoma, Thomas, Oklahoma. Got to give a shout out to Thomas, But, it's a Cheyenne community. It's a Cheyenne community, and to move to El Reno and then, it was like a culture shock to me. People thought that being Native was, they thought it meant you drink for 3 days and then you fight, snag,
That's not what it is.
not at all. But people really thought, like to them, that's what being Native meant.
Right.
That was like the stigma.
Yeah,
around
the
it
stigma.
for so
Gangsta
long. That
stigma.
was even like when I was in high school too. Like that's
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you're a drunk Indian, like, and it was like such a culture shock to me. But luckily, I stayed around. I anytime there was a Sundance, of course I went to Concho at first, and then like I always felt that sense of wanting to be involved. Like it was just something inside of me that like that's where I felt connected at. That's where I felt like I could, be of service to not only, my family, but to my whole tribe.
Right.
And that's really where I found my identity. And some, like I always said, even through my addiction, like I would still show up.
Mm-hmm.
I still showed up and I would still take part. I would still, try to do as much as I could. I hope that people would think of me as like a hard worker. Like they would see like this actually means something to me. And it makes me feel like I'm a part of something, and then I get initiated into dog soldiers whenever in 1995. That's been 30 years ago.
Dang, I'm 34.
When he was 4, I got initiated into dog soldiers,
Was out there in that baby carrier.
Yeah. But that's really where I found, like I felt connected to that. I always felt like I just wanted to be a part of watching other people go through ceremonies. I always wanted to be, always wanted to help out others, because at one time I didn't think I deserved, because of the life that I lived out away from, or away from them ceremonies. And it just kind of, but I was always drawn to these things, I always wanted to be at the powwow, and I always tried to pay attention to what was going on out in the arena, when they're singing, the flag song. I try to like, hey, they're singing the flag song, you got to be still, and then, okay, they're done. Yeah.
Take off.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Let's hit another lap.
Yeah.
Laps. Snake.
So, it was just, I always had the respect. I always had the somewhat of knowledge of, what to do, what not to do. I knew what was disrespectful, and I knew, but I only lived that way for a week, maybe 2 sometimes, and it wasn't until I got sober that I really realized, like, if we're not going to protect and carry on our ceremonies, then who we leaving it up to?
Right.
mm-hmm.
Like who else? What other Cheyennes are we waiting to come and save us? And that's one thing that I've learned about my process is that a man becomes a man when he realizes that nobody's coming to save him. Like you have to learn how to save yourself. And through my process, I've done that through ceremony. Like going to sweats is part of my recovery. That's where I go and I admit to God and another human being, the natures of my wrongs, and I'm able to leave those things there. So then whenever I think about like the sweat ceremony, I think about where these rocks come from. They were formed millions of years ago. Creator knew millions and millions of years ago that's what these rocks were going to be used for. Was for me to bring all my worries and all my, all my stress, all my unnecessary stress, all of life's problems. I'm going to come and I'm going to leave them with those grandfathers. And whenever I crawl out, it's going to be like I'm reborn. So it's became a very big part of my recovery. And then I think about, like, who else? Who else is coming to save what we got? That's my identity. That's who I am. And I love the fact that, people can see that we do recover.
Mm-hmm.
We can come back to the circle. We can, find some healing. We can, because I have nothing against Christianity. Like I said, I was raised, my grandma, probably the sweetest little old lady that I ever knew in my life. She was a good person, and she was, raised in residential schools. That's how she was just taught, and I don't see nothing wrong. I got a lot of friends that got sober through church, But as far as me and where I found my connection, it was being, I had to basically go where I really didn't have, I had family members that, it was part of their life. And I watched them live good lives, and they would just always talk about, Mahayot, the great mystery, the great one. And then it was, talked about sweet medicine, and how, who we were before sweet medicine came to us, when he brought those arrows to us, and just trying to understand, our history, and, wanting my kids to know these things. Because like I said, that's where I feel like that's where my connection is. Like I feel whole whenever I'm taking part in our ceremonies today, and it fills the hole where I used to put drugs and alcohol. Where, that's, and it's a beautiful thing to watch, other people come into recovery and to see them, out there gore dancing, or see them in the sweat, or, I got a call last night from, one of my bros. He's up there in Tulsa, and man, like, I got a little emotional, after we hung up, because, like life got the best of him, like he doesn't look at it as that. He was given the gift of desperation, and only his life and his kids' lives are on the line, like that's what's on the line. And he knows that the only way through this is to walk through the storm. And he's not afraid to do that because, just because of, just the way that life, how things ended up, and where he was, where his kids ended up, he knew that, the only way out was for what happened, everything that had to happen, and to hear him, like, just for him to be ready, like he doesn't know what's fixing to happen. All he knows is that he's going to pray to the Creator, and he's going to ask him to be with him, through every step, and I remember being there. I remember going through that process. I remember not knowing what's going to happen next. But all I know is that, I didn't have to use. I was in a safe place. And he gave me, he let that miracle happen in my life. And my bro, he believes the same way I do. He looks at the same, his dad's a Cheyenne chief, and he gets the opportunity. And that's really all that a person really needs. When you're that far down, when you think the only way out is to take your life. I remember having those thoughts. I remember being that person. I remember going through that process thinking like, would this world be better without me? Mm. And for him to have the, to have the faith, to know that, anything's better than what he was putting himself through. Anything's better than what he was doing to himself, So it was, like I got the call, it was right after I had dinner, and, he told me he loved me, and, I told him I loved him, and, man, I had to go sit outside, and I had to let some tears flow, because I was so happy. Like that's because I've stayed on this red road, and to see somebody else, like you would think, because he also has family members that are in the same position as him, but they're looking at it in a whole different way, like they see it in a whole different way, and here he is, struggling, but all he knows is that there's a way out, and he was given the gift of desperation, and he had no other choice but to turn to God. And sometimes, that's just the way that things work out, and I feel that because that's how it was for me. I thought the only way out was death. And he gave me another opportunity, and I've been riding that wave ever since, and here I am, 4 years sober, 4 years sober, and I'd say I probably got about 4 years and 3 months now. And I remember that beginning process, not knowing, and all I had to lean on was, I found some cedar out there in California. I put a cigarette down. I grabbed me some cedar, and I would go back to the detox because we got to go to Mount Rubidoux in Riverside, California. We'd walk to the top of Mount Rubidoux every once or twice a week. I put a cigarette down, I got me some cedar, and that's all I really had to lean on. It was like not knowing what's going to happen next. But all I know is I'm in a safe place. I don't have to use today, and I get to work on me. That change happened within. I had to have a vision precede, my chaos and my clarity, and then I had to do a great learning. A great learning had to occur. I had to learn more about my disease. I had to learn more about my trauma and my trauma responses, my triggers. I had to, I came home and I found my community. We created that healthy forest that we always talk about. So, I mean, that's really all I got.
That's good.
Oh, good one.
I think it's key to recognize that we, you just made a lot of good points, but Creator doesn't leave us. God doesn't leave us. Mm-mm. We could be on the highest of mountains and be going through the lowest valleys. And that's when everyone's always doing the complaints about, well, God left me and is leading me to go through this trial on my own. And that's never the case.
Never.
Mm-mm.
And you just have to realize that you're just going through this valley for a period of time and that you're going to be hitting that mountaintop again. And I think it's just important for everybody to realize that God is always there, and that through the great learning, like Beary was just talking about, and realizing that you're still going through that learning process every single day, that that's just going to help you in your growth. So that was just something I got out of what you just said. So.
And I hope that we never forget to pray for those who are still sick and suffering.
Always.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I always pray that they can see the light even just a little bit, like I did. Same way.
For sure. And it's to me that's always a weird prayer, because it's take them where they need to be able to see you. Mm-hmm. I had to go way down there, to find God.
So you don't want to be hey, God, put them at the rock bottom. But
basically,
you don't want to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Sometimes that's what you.
But that's why I said it's a weird prayer. Mm-hmm. Take them where they need to see you. Mm-hmm. Take them where they need to find you. And we're such hard-headed people that sometimes that's where we have to be to find God. To find the Creator. And it's. I think about my process, I thought the only way out was death. I didn't see no end to what I was going through. I didn't see no end to this suffering, and like I said, it's, when I think about that prayer, I think about what I had to go through to figure out, where I wanted my life to go.
And most likely there was somebody out there praying that prayer
For
for
sure.
you.
That's what
For
I was
sure.
gonna say. Like, I wonder who was praying for me
Yeah.
to make it to that like last day.
Yeah.
You know?
Had to be, yeah. I don't. It's so many possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very, like I said, I'm very blessed that I got given the gift of desperation.
Yeah. It's just powerful to know that there's people out there that are praying for you.
For sure.
So I'm glad we finally made your list.
Uh-huh. We pray for my eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you
I've
add
been
that to
praying
your
for
list?
your eye for so long. Just your eye, not you. No, just kidding.
Your eye's going to be great.
Yeah.
You're going to be
eyes
awful.
is-
Yeah,
still.
you just keep getting in its way.
Henri.
Get out of your eye's way.
Henri.
Goodness.
Oh my god.
That was a good one. I knew that this was coming up, and I'm thinking like, oh, I just want to say the best thing ever, but it's almost like I don't even, I pray about, my prayer life is sometimes, just about the live,
Mm-hmm.
because when I burn that cedar and, like that's one of the things is I feel blessed because I get to come and tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
I feel grateful that I even get the opportunity. I feel blessed because I get this chance to speak on these things that are hard to talk about, and we talk about them every day. So it's like second nature to me to just get a mic in front of me and talk about, being vulnerable, and how it helps me grow, a little bit every time. So, I always have these like things that I want to say, but like they just don't fit the conversation really. Like it would just sound like fake,
There you
Just
go.
going way off topic because
Yeah.
you had that pop into your head.
Yeah. Like
I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty random. You know
I'm
what
pretty
I mean?
random.
I can be pretty random, so I think it just
Yeah.
flows sometimes. But I know
Yeah.
what you mean.
But so, like when I got up this morning, I was thinking like, oh man, I just can't wait to get out here. We're going to do so many episodes, and then, my friends in California are going to be able to see them, and, yada, yada, yada. Well, then they're like, oh yeah, you got an appointment this morning.
Dang.
Like God's will, but it was a great, I'm glad, I'm very thankful for Hawk, and the CNA Productions. I mean, they do a lot of great things, they give us a lot of good exposure. So
Absolutely.
I felt
Yeah.
like
Thank you guys. for
this
having us
was
out.
the beginning. This was the beginning,
This was the beginning.
Yeah. Started off.
and, here we are again. So I'm very grateful that we even get the opportunity,
Yep.
So
Last words.
Any
words.
last words, anyone?
Yes, I would have to say, if you're not in recovery, if you're not in sobriety, and you're waiting on a sign, let this be your sign.
Ooh, I like that.
Let's plant that seed of what, what does your wellness, what does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? And what does it sound like? Where is your healing? What does that feel like? What does it, all the five senses, think about your wellness and where it, not where it is, but where you feel like it should be. And, let's take a positive step in making that happen. And it's not going to it's not going to happen overnight.
Mhm.
It's definitely not going to happen overnight. But if you stay consistent and it's something that you really want, I promise you, when you give it a chance and you make that a priority and you start practicing these healthy habits, I mean, I would love to see you sitting in one of these chairs one of these days, and to be able to share your experience, strength, and hope. So
I just want to say, if you feel like you're alone, you're not.
Mhm.
If you want to get connected with us, we talked about our our Facebook in the previous episode, but that is going to be the Cheyenne and Arapaho TOR project. Each each one of us has, we all have our own stories, and we all use those daily to connect with people
Daily.
and guide them in, whatever help that they may need, whatever steps that they need to take. That's what we do. That's what we're here for, and what we're passionate about. So we're always here.
Always.
Yep. Likewise. Hey.
You ditto.
That's your final words. Thanks, Migo.
That's from the heart.
No, just don't be afraid to reach out to us. I know, like, that stigma and embarrassment. So I felt
Shame and
that
guilt,
too.
yeah.
Yep, shame and guilt. I felt that, when I was going through what I was going through, and able to come out and speak up and just show your face and show up. Like I say, just show up in life. Even if you ain't got no puppy soup or anything, just show up and help. Be involved. But don't be afraid to reach out to us. And
You bring the male, I bring the female.
yeah, bring
We'll make some
5
puppy
months
soup.
old. See, you gotta come visit us.
Yeah.
You will laugh.
Yeah.
Definitely. For me, fear, life, trauma may break you down.
Mm.
God never leaves you, and don't let your faith break.
That's a good one. All right. Well, is that the final
That's
episode?
it. We just got to be quiet
We're
now.
out.
I hope.
I hope.